The Rapid Support Forces, a paramilitary in Sudan, just accepted a ceasefire proposal after capturing Al Fashir last week, a regional capital city. And we're going to talk about why and the geopolitical dynamics. Reports widely confirmed that civilians had been put to the sword, essentially, with RSF victims and their blood visible from literally space. It's a horrific wartime series of crimes, which I covered in a previous Sudan video, explaining that these actions were likely commanded by seniors in the Rapid Support Forces and Hemeti himself, the man in charge, to suppress or repress the citizenry of El Fasher and other captured territory to keep the survivors in line through the sheer weight of fear. Fear will keep them in line, right? Repercussions promised to them if they resist RSF rule. Look at these civilians. We can defo do that to your community, and that will keep people quiet, at least for the short to mid term. As reports widely suggest, the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, often referred to as the Emiratis, has been the chief state supporter, the chief state sponsor of these rapid support forces, the paramilitary in Sudan, opposing the Sudanese state and committing these atrocities against civilians. The Emirati arms and money traded for large amounts of Sudanese gold, essentially stolen gold, you could frame it as, because this is a rebel force, it's not the government selling gold. Gold in the hundreds of thousands of kilos that flow from the gold mines in Darfur and Kordofan, or Kordofan, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. The RSF held regions in the south and the west of Sudan, sent straight to UAE and other purchasers or recipients of that gold in exchange for something, right? So why now? That's the question. Why does the why does the UAE agree to offer a ceasefire? Because the ceasefire was offered by something called the Quad. It's a four-part diplomatic mission, essentially, to try and resolve the Sudanese crisis. The US, the UAE, Saudi, and Egypt make up that Quad. UAE is part of that Quad. So why would the UAE be willing to suggest a ceasefire when they can't? When that would mean they can no longer support their boys, right? Hemeti and his pals, right? Well, first off, these four, the Quad, jointly proposed a ceasefire in, I think, the last 48 hours. And the RSF, this is what's made the headlines, this is why I'm making this video. The RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, have accepted that ceasefire. No word on the Sudanese state and whether they too will accept it, because the ceasefire, Dui hat taratali hoy na, as the Bengalis say. You can't clap without two hands. One side can accept a ceasefire, if the other side doesn't, it's not really in effect, right? But why would the UAE accept offering this ceasefire? And why would the RSF accept it? That's why I don't see being covered, because obviously that falls into not just news report, but analysis and assessment, which is where I've got you, B. Whatever, some gangster science. Even though absolutely I'm not a gangster, and I was never on the road. I was never what is referred to as a road man, which is kind of obvious, probably, from how I speak. Anyway, why would the UAE accept suggesting a ceasefire? Why would the RSF accept it? Let's get into it. First, I was going to say first some tea, but there's... First, no tea. Sip tea on my behalf, if you can. I'd really like some tea right now. But my wife's busy with our son. Anyway, here's the thing. Let's just dump into it. Here's one take, guys. Let's just dive into it, is what I wanted to say. The UAE, which has been accused of arming the Rapid Support Forces with heaps of evidence provided to back up that accusation, but the UAE deny it, the UAE is facing an explosion of scrutiny on social media, and that's leaking into streets across the world. Citizen sentiment against the UAE has been steadily rising. They have seen what happened to Israel in terms of their diplomatic, economic, political isolation, and the UAE is like, oh snap, we've seen this movie before. It's still ongoing, actually, against one of our brotherly neighbors. I mean, one of our regional countries, Israel. We definitely don't want to fall into that same camp. We're already in that same camp in some ways, but we're the UAE. We don't want to be sanctioned and boycotted and all that, right? But that's what's happening. the news is reaching social media from Sudan, and evidence is reaching social media that the UAE is complicit. And that's leaking into the citizen sentiment, that's leaking into the streets of the global citizenry. And from there, it's leaking into the halls of power, right? It's like a liberating gas or an informative gas, I suppose, is leaking everywhere. Anyway, the UAE now faces rapidly growing scrutiny and calls for sanctions against the Emirates. The catchiest, sort of call to action that I've seen. Not that I'm asking you to calling on anyone to sanction. I'm just an informant, right? I'm just the messenger, right? I'm just giving you the analysis. You do with it what you wish. I'm unbiased, as I say. The catchiest one that I've seen though is Habibi Boycott Dubai. Instead of Habibi go to Dubai, right? It's obviously a protest variation of that tourism catchphrase. But there's loads of them, right? And there's posters everywhere, and there's like Burj Khalifa icons with blood dripping. It's obviously social media, right? Now, the UAE, as I mentioned in past videos, primarily supports the RSF, though they deny arming them. But if it's true that they do support the RSF, they support the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, the paramilitary in Sudan that we're talking about, because of one simple thing. The thousands of kilos of gold that Sudan's paramilitary flies out to the UAE in exchange for the weapons and the funds to fight against the Sudanese state. It's guns for gold. It's quite straightforward. So it's just business for the UAE, or primarily it's business for the UAE, what they're doing. As heartless and immoral as that sounds, that's the priority of the current Emirati administration. Don't blame me if that sounds heartless and immoral. Blame the ones that appear to be heartless and immoral. Don't look at me, right? The goal is of the current administration, for better or worse, right? They're taking good care of their citizenry. One could argue they're completely trashing their souls, but that some may say, but that's up to that's each administration to their own, bruv. Each administration to their own. I ain't getting involved. Their mission, the administration of the Emirates, is do what's good for business, make lots of money, right? Those women aren't going to drape themselves in full body solid gold dresses, right? Those $10,000 meals at the Burj Khalifa where you blow all your cash on literally some guy, I don't know, coming and cutting your steak for you, feeding it to you, maybe stroking your cheek. I don't know what they do. I'm not rich like that, and if I was, I'd probably not spend it that way. But those $10,000 meals, they're not going to spend themselves. They're not going to pay themselves, right? Those Lamborghinis aren't gonna... Okay, you get the point. You get the point, right? They want to be money, right? They want to be money. They want to be rich. UAE economic plan. Step 1, get rich. Step 2, get more rich. Step 3, and onwards. Repeat step 2. And part of that was import gold from South Sudan and fund the paramilitary there. But social media putting the spotlight on the UAE is, breaking news, bad for business. See, here's where the geopolitics makes it crystal clear what the heck is going on. So you can be upset about what's going on in the world. At least, though, if you understand the geopolitics, you understand how the world works. Administrations have priorities. I'm outlining to you the UAE priority. Look, it falls in place. It aligns. And it's about to align even better. Hold on. Funding the RSF because of social media has become bad for business. So the clock is ticking on continued Emirati support for the RSF. They know it, and it's likely the RSF know it. We can't keep funding you. It's bad for business, my G. Sooner or later, we're going to have to drop some statement of condemnation against you guys, leak to the media maybe that our aircraft full of guns have stopped flying out to flipping Chad or Somalia, and then trickling into Sudan from there, so that the paramilitary can fight the state government army. We're gonna have to cut ties, right? So the RSF, seeing the writing on the wall, seeing the UAE support is likely coming to an end, are trying to cement their current gains. The RSF are like, whoa, we might end up with very little support very soon. So let's just lock in the profit we've made now, right? Lock it in. Save it. Bank it, bruv. Will Sudan's government compromise, though? Because they know that this is all going on too. If I know, they know for sure. I'm just some guy in London. Will the Sudanese army fight back, wait for the UAE support to dry up, and then take down, or try to take down, Hemeti and attempt to provide some sort of justice to the people that the RSF have put to the sword in El Fashir and Kordofan and other regions? Will the Sudanese state fight back after a certain time, or will they actually sue for peace, sue for a ceasefire? Time will tell. I don't know. But I'll try and keep you posted with the unbiased. with the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mahfouz or NewsBaba. It continues to be a pleasure to inform you, and I hope that you are finding it enlightening, entertaining, da da da, blah blah blah. If you want to continue supporting my work, watch my videos throughout so that the algorithm values my content. I know they're long. I know. I hear you. Maybe if you have the data, your mobile data. Maybe if you have the time, you can just play a video, and you don't have the time or attention, play it as a sort of podcast in the background, or leave it on your table as you go to get a cup of tea, like I have failed to do today. Right? Watch my videos to the end. It really would help. Also, like my videos. Also, bookmark them if you're on TikTok. Also, comment. Right? Drop. Also, financially, if you click on the link in my bio, especially on TikTok, I'm not sure if I've started doing on YouTube yet properly. I forget to, but on TikTok, on my bio, if you click, there's a way to financially support me. It's potentially about to get very important to financially support me, to help me expand my capabilities. I'll just leave it at that. And I'll see you on the next one.